Hello, hello. How are you all? Hi, Colin. All right, now just request to join and I will add you. Hi, hello, hello. So excited for today. Hi, Gina. Hi, Doll. Oh my gosh, so happy to have you guys here. Hi, Dee.
Hi, Danielle. So good to see you.
Hi, baby. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Forgive my very lack of a glamorous background. I'm in my parents' room.
I love it. I love it. All
Very
right, now that
Venus
it's split
retrograde
screen, I
backward.
press what?
What's that? Go ahead. You go first. Go ahead.
No, now that it went into the split screen of like the Brady Bunch, I just had to adjust my camera.
Yes.
So
Give the people your outfit look. Come on. Let's see. Stand up. Let us
Oh.
see it. I want to know.
Well,
Come on.
for
Uh-oh.
my split screen, I
Yeah.
got my little sexy channeling
love
my
it.
Venus.
Check out that Venus pattern. I love it, honey. You look beautiful. Is this your home or is this the apothecary? I can't tell.
I'm on my front porch of my house.
There we go. Okay, perfect. So it's a sunny day on Long Island, right?
It is so beautiful, baby.
Good. I love it. Yes, I can see the green. It looks so nice. Yeah, I'm in North Carolina now, so it's beautiful here. We have sun pretty much every day. I can't complain. Yeah, I'm with family. Yeah.
Good. Well, the fact that you're with family is so wonderful.
So essential. Oh my gosh. Yes, it's very Venus retrograde. It's like back to the original origin of relationships, which is what we're going to be talking about.
Absolutely. And I'm so excited. Like,
Me
guys,
too.
guys on Instagram, welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so excited.
Hi.
David is hella intuitive. Hi, guys.
David's here. Witch Dr. Alex. I love him. Hi.
We already
Yes.
have 32 people, and we're going to be saving this on YouTube also. So
I'm
I'm glad that everyone's able to join.
Yes.
So we're very, very excited because Colin is a beautiful expert astrologer and a dear friend of mine and of the apothecary, and we love him so much. And we thought, what better opportunity than to schedule today's talk, because we just went into Venus in retrograde.
Yes, we did.
And Colin, I do want to ask you to just talk a little bit about your experience as an astrologer, who you are first, and then we'll get into it. Yeah.
Great. Okay. So thank you for that lovely introduction, Danielle. Of course, everybody should hire a Libra to introduce you. I swear, nobody connects quite like they do. So yes, I am an astrologer. I've been working professionally for about 3 years. But I've studied the system for approximately 15, really ever since I was 12. I've never not been, it seems like, a part of this conversation. And I've sort of specialized now relatively recently in terms of interpersonal dynamics and relational theory, right? Because I've written a few books on astrology, but the one that really spoke to me was when I was able to research relational psychology, relational psychodynamics. I think there's really such a need to bring spiritual and secular conversations around that together. And that's why I was so happy to be here to talk to you about it, because really we will always want to remember that Esther Perel teaches us that the quality of our life is determined by the quality of our relationships. Yeah. And because Venus retrograde gives each and every one of us an opportunity to review and reassess and research how exactly we connect to others, what languages and communication practices can we use for that outcome, I think we'll be really closer to achieving the highest level of satisfaction in relationship and thus have the highest satisfaction in life.
Amen. Amen.
Right? You know, Libra, you know, right? I learned from you because I actually have a lot of energy in the house opposing Libra. So I'm all about identity and sovereignty and freedom. And then Libra's always like, okay, that's real nice, but make sure you connect to other people too, honey. You know, so amen to you anyway.
We need to balance. So
That's
yes,
it.
Tina
That's
and I
it.
are Libra suns.
Yes.
But then I have my moon in Leo, so I feel really big too, in the 8th house.
Yes.
Which is, you know, death, rebirth, transformation.
And all things that the apothecary specializes in too, right? Like metaphysical concepts, spirituality, psychological study. So you are right where you belong. Absolutely.
That's right. So one of the things before we even get into what Venus in retrograde brings to us, people often ask, what does retrograde mean? Because we have 4 planets in retrograde.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Okay, I know. Yes, we do. Okay. So also you had a moon twin, which Dr. Alex, he said, yes, Leo moon. I love it. I know Leos are just larger than life. Anyway, okay. So we have 4 planets that are currently retrograde: Venus, Saturn, Pluto, and Jupiter. Okay. So when planets are retrograde, what it inspires each and every one of us to do is do the RE in retrograde and make it a verb, right? So research, reunite, reassess, reformulate, reintegrate, right? Because the fact of the matter is, and we're even seeing this now in the midst of a global pandemic, modernity moves too fast. We're just on a frantic pace all the time, right? So when planets slow down during a retrograde phase, it's like, okay, everybody, take a breath and think about everything that you've learned while this planet was direct, right? So we'll use Venus as an example because that's the primary consideration here. Venus has been direct since November of 2018, right? So we've had it for about a year and a half, right? And then when Venus retrogrades, it's like, okay, let's really think, what were my primary learning outcomes? What have I identified, right? So we identify when a planet is direct. We internalize when the planet is retrograde, because it's one thing to talk about it because we've identified it. It's another when it makes its way right back down to the emotional nervous system. Yes, and my friend, which Dr. Alex is correct, it was Venus retrograde in Scorpio. Now it's Venus retrograde in Gemini, right? So that was the last time we had Venus retrograde. And now we're internalizing everything we've learned since. Then when Venus moves direct on June 25th, it's application, right? Because it's now that we know better and it's a part of our emotional nervous system, we do better. We apply, right? So identify, internalize, apply. We're in the retrograde area, so now we're internalizing. And we had it said earlier when we were doing our morning coffee that there's many people who are just like really confused about the quality of their relationships right now. And that's totally normal, right? Let's just normalize that right now. Also, too, because A, it's Venus retrograde, and B, we're in the midst of a global pandemic. So we're all trying to ask ourselves deeper questions about, is this person my primary partner? Like, just because I love them, does that mean I have to build a life story with them? You know, there's so many questions. So now
a regular retrograde is a chance to say, like, time out, let's bring it inside and review, and then revise or course correct anything that is out of whack, or like lessons to correct, revisit, reunion, and that's why people come creeping.
Rise from the dead, right? Okay.
Which we're going to talk about. Definitely we're going to, I mean, like, hey, let's be real here.
Yes, you are 100% right, Danielle. Like, because when things are retrograde, right, it's retro. It's bringing it back from the past. So you could probably anticipate lovers from the past rising from the dead and either reminding you, yep, my friend Jocelyn just said they seriously do, yep. They're going to be teaching you maybe the lessons that you haven't learned yet, and or perhaps exactly, you know, what you can do to say, you know, I could have improved as well, right? So I'm sorry for what I did, you know? So it goes both ways. Are you seeing that in your clients' lives and your life as well?
Absolutely. And even in the comments, people are saying, my ex calls me at 6 a.m. saying, I miss you. I've had some people say, hey, like a little poke, a little hot.
Yeah, right. Oof.
You know, and also when we were scheduling this a few weeks ago, we said, you know, it's going to be really interesting with the pandemic, because I anticipate with people being locked down, there's going to be a baby boom.
Oh, totally.
And then also there's going to be relationships that are like, whoa, I am with the wrong person. Like, life is too short to be with this union. It's not suiting me. But then you also shared a few other hypotheses that you were also witnessing. Why don't you elaborate?
Oh my God. Okay. Yeah. So the Gemini in me, I'm like, I wonder what's going to go down. So yes, I totally think that after this, we're going to, because we saw it in China, the research right after the physical distancing guideline was limited, is there was a rush of divorce requests in China. And so what we're going to see there is probably a real review of like, wow, did I choose this person for the wrong reasons? Right. And then also, because this is Gemini, I think what we're always going to want to remember is that, and my friend just brought that up, that the Olsen twins are getting a divorce, or one of them is, and she's a Gemini, of course, is that you could love somebody, but it does not mean you're meant to build a life with them. And that's that capacity for Gemini, right? Like, because there is a gentle sort of emotional and psychological detachment. There's a comfortable distance that Gemini energy has when they're in love with others. And I think what we're realizing is like, well, just because I'm in love with you, just because I care about you, does not mean that we need to be married. It doesn't mean that we need to see one another, right? And I think that's really what we're going to want to examine too. And then the core value of Gemini energy too is how can we use our relational differences as resources? And I'm saying this because the Gemini twins were fraternal, so they were not identical. And I love that detail because it reminds us that, like, your partners are not you.
Yeah.
You are not your partners, right? One of those obvious things. But yet,
Yeah.
how often do we go, you know, life would just be so much better if you did it the way I did it?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Anything to share about that?
Well, it's so interesting because Gina and I are birthday twins. We have the same exact day. I am just a few hours older than her. So one would say, you have the same exact birthday. You have the same exact chart. No. We are both Libra suns. We are both Leo moons. We have Venus moons.
Yeah.
She's a Cap rising. I'm a Sag rising.
That's
so
right.
you think about fraternal twins, you know, there's differences between the two. And like those few minutes, those few hours make all the difference with where the planets are housed, the angular aspects.
Beautiful.
So
yes. Way to go,
this is
Danielle.
really interesting. You know, it's like a snowflake. No two people are the same. So
no. And I think that's, let's just return to that spiritual wisdom of like, where was I making my partner fit into the picture frame of how they should be because of who I am? Right? And really kind of ask ourselves, all right, let's do this differently. So I actually wrote down 7 relational verbs that couples therapist Esther Perel asks us to think about while we're navigating these relational differences, right? So I thought I would read them just so we can give people some very practical takeaways here. Is the 7 relational verbs are to ask, to take, to receive, to give, to share, to refuse, and to imagine.
Okay.
So how do we put those 7 verbs into practice while we're in a space of contrast with others? Right? So if you could use your relationship with Dina as such an example. How do you ask? How do you give? How do you refuse? How do you play? How do you imagine? Right? Because remember, Gemini is mutable air. And so it reminds us too that if we're not working on the language and the listening skills, right, then we're not actually cultivating the highest meaning of relationships. So now I'm going to flip it and ask you a statistic question. And I want to just see if you could think of a number right away. Okay. So based on listening, okay, how much from 0 to 100, how much do you think we can actually listen and hear accurately? Guess what the average number is? And you can write it in the comments too. So any number from 0 to 100, hit me with it.
I'm going to be conservative and say probably close to like 30%, 30 to 40%.
I'm laughing so hard because that's a Sag Rising's number of like conservative. I'm going to say half, right? Like bigger is better. Okay, someone said 60, 45, 40. 40, I'm seeing some 40s. Okay, 20. Okay, 13. All right. So, congratulations, C. Duffy. It is actually 13%.
That's so low.
We have a 13. Yes.
I don't even understand. That's like
right. I know. It's 13% listening accuracy.
Blah 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 blah. Not enough listening. Too much of this. Not enough of this.
Yes, and I'm almost positive. Aren't you culturally Irish, Danielle, if I remember correctly? Yeah. So the Irish saying is, God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, so you could do twice as much listening as you do talking, right? So there it goes. It's like, how much are we not hearing? How much are we not listening to? And this is actually Gemini energy too, because people often think that like Gemini's eloquence is just like in the air. They're just born knowing how to do it. I don't think that's actually it. I think Gemini knows how to speak because they know how to listen.
Yes, I agree. I agree with that. I mean, you are the sign of communication.
Right. We're supposed to be.
You know, as you were talking, and you're masterful at it. I love listening to you talk for hours. I love it. One of the things that I was struck by when you were talking about the 7 attributes and while I was going through the divorce,
Mm.
the book Five Love Languages was recommended to me. And that was a real eye-opener because the way that I express my love was in very different ways to express my love. And then my ex-husband received in very different ways.
Totally.
So like, by understanding how he expressed was also how he needed to receive. I was able to do gestures or communicate in ways that showed that I cared and vice versa. Even though we decided to part ways, that was a very transformative moment for us in understanding.
Totally. And I'm glad you brought that up too, because it goes back to the language of love, right?
Yeah.
And there were, if I remember, Gary Chapman wrote 5, and they were quality time, gifts, words of affirmation, acts of service, and physical touch.
Right.
And even just that introduction, reminding us that there are 5, like you just said, Danielle, teaches us that your language may not be your partner's. And actually, this is lined up with the research in couples counseling, is that your partner's proclivities, so that which they do well, is going to clash immediately with your vulnerabilities, and vice versa.
Yeah.
So if one partner, and I see this all the time, I'm sure you can even see it in your relationship as well. If one partner happens to be a little bit more astute at verbal language, another partner is going to be astute at nonverbal language. So they're like almost having parallel conversations, right? So the mutable Gemini energy asks us, okay, so now that we know we're speaking different languages, how do we compromise? How do we negotiate? What do we do? How do we ask? How do we give? How do we refuse? How do we play? How do we imagine? And how do we also just show curiosity? Like, I'm sure you see that all the time, right? Yeah. There are people who don't even remember to just ask thoughtful questions to their partners, and not like Management Inc. Like, did you pay the electrician? It's like, no, like, how was your day? What were you aspiring to achieve today? How did it go? Asking those thoughtful, open-ended dialogue questions, mutable air Gemini, Venus retrograde in Gemini, is so essential to observe other people and feel like you're in a deeper relationship with them.
Yeah, and I'm an air sign. You're an air sign.
Yes, you are.
And I'm sad. I overthink everything. So, like, if I'm thinking, what does he mean by that? What is that? And meanwhile, someone else may be like completely happy, not even like, but that's me projecting.
Yes.
I'm projecting on them and like driving myself crazy. Whereas we can pay better.
Oh my God, you are a premier queen air sign, Danielle, because as my friend Witch Dr. Alex pointed out so beautifully, Venus was retrograde in Scorpio. So what I think, and that was October 2018 to November 2018, what I believe we learned then was actually related to what you were saying about the projection and the overthinking. Because what I noticed a lot of people doing was recognizing how quickly they tell themselves stories in their head. Right?
I do it all the time. And I stop myself.
We all do, right? And so, but the air signs, right? Yeah. What we have to do is language a certain level of demonstration to our relational partners that say, okay, the story I'm making up in my head is you did not respond to my text message for the last 6 hours because you're no longer interested in me. Is that correct? Right? And I know, and we got to be that bold, and we got to be that direct, and we got to be that specific.
I am, yeah.
And then the listener and the reader can go, oh my God, no, that's not it at all. I was just really emotionally overwhelmed. I was sick and tired of being near my phone. Of course, I was thinking about you, but I just couldn't stand another fucking screen conversation. Excuse me for cursing, but it's Long Island. It's okay, right?
It's fine.
So, you know, it's really essential that we start to fact check our assumptions. And then I think that could be really wonderful to model during Venus retrograde in Gemini is just say, look, I don't want to believe everything I think, so can I just workshop with you that which I am analyzing, and you can fact check for accuracy.
Right. And also, like, pairing my Leo moon, I'm just like, you don't see me. You don't even know me. Like, you don't appreciate me. I'm like, I know that's my issue.
Wait, so, right, and I love that at least you're acknowledging it, right? Like, this is my shit. This is totally my shit. So now, to the point of your Leo moon, right? Would you say that your love language would be words of affirmation then?
That's definitely up there. I need to hear. I need to know.
Yeah. What's your number one? Do you know your number one? Because it does change.
Acts of service.
Oh, okay. Huh. Where's your Mars?
I feel like it's Gemini. I have to check.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
I don't know what house it's in. I have to check.
But it does change too. It changes all the time. And I think too, what we're going to want to remember back to Venus retrograde. Yes, lots of ancestral trauma. Exactly. Venus retrograde kind of speaks to the fact that when a primary need was not given from our first family or our caregivers, we do project that need into our relationship. And
That's interesting.
Right,
That's
because
really interesting. Yeah.
it all comes back to adult attachment style, right? So technically, yes, identify the love language. And then I think the finish line would be being in a relationship where that primary need is not met and you're still okay because you've healed from it. You see what I mean? Because what I think too, from an ethical point of view, we want to remember that our romantic partners are not responsible for the inadequacies of our caregivers.
That's right. That's right. So therefore, like, I'm okay without the approval of anyone else. And I'm at that point where I'm just like, yay, like, you do you, boo. I'm good.
Yes, and that's big Leo energy. That's big Leo energy, Danielle, right? Like, my worthiness is not on the line here.
Right.
Like, whether or not you tell me it, whatever, I'm so intact. I'm so full, Leo, high-minded fullness, right? That whatever you do, I'm good. And then we want to remember too, back to Venus, that's attractive. Right?
Yep.
Because it's not like anybody calls their friend or family member, goes, oh my God, you'll never believe it. This guy, this girl, this whoever was so pissed at me because I didn't respond to them exactly when I wanted them to. I think I'm in love. Right? It's like, no, adaptability, like lightheartedness. And that's Venus and Gemini energy too. So full disclosure, I do have a Venus in Gemini, right? And I think that what helps me in relationship is that I do not take myself or them too seriously. Like the other partner. I take relationships very seriously, like the loyalty, the engagement, the connection, right? But when I'm on a date or when I'm talking to somebody, I'm not like, all nervous. I'm just like, whatever, I got my wings. Yeah, right. I'm just going to be me, you be you. I'll do whatever the fuck I want, right? And I think Venus and Gemini energy, like, if we just take anything away from it, it's like, oh, lighten up on yourself. Don't take yourself too seriously, because that's not attractive because you're nervous, you're vigilant, you're controlled. You're like, ah. But if you just sort of, go ahead.
This is where I'm going to plug astrology. So
please,
for everybody watching, this is the power of understanding your natal chart and having that kind of a consultative interpretation. If you don't know how to do it yourself, sitting with someone such as yourself and saying like, oh, because it provides so much insight to the inner workings of the psychology.
Yes,
Brilliant.
Yes. And I also love that you said insight because one of my favorite TED Talks was given by a clinical psychologist on Long Island. Her name is Dr. Joanne Davila. And the title of the TED Talk, if you go on YouTube, is Relational Competence. So to use clinical language, because Venus and Gemini, it turns me on, it's really about a skill-based model for relational functioning. And the three primary values and skills that these researchers determine that increase our capacity for romantic technique. The first one is insight, Danielle. That's the first one. The second one is mutuality, Libra, right?
Yeah.
So really finding that harmony in terms of like my needs, my values, my desires are not any more or less important than the desires of my partners. So insight, who am I? Mutuality, who are we together? And then the third one, and this connects to, as far as I'm concerned, to Jupiter retrograde in Capricorn, is emotion regulation. Which I know sounds very like Vulcan, live long and prosper, like thou shalt not. It sounds a little stale. But what they mean by emotion regulation is that when you are emotionally compromised, when you are emotionally hijacked by something, the skill in relationship is to not emotionally offload at your partner.
No dumping.
No dumping, right? No projecting, no dumping, no conspiracy.
Emotional dumping.
No.
Yeah.
And then that's where the Venus retrograde and Scorpio skills theoretically could have been, oh my God, the story I'm making up in my head is, right? So I'm just going to tell you this because this is where I'm at. I'm not saying it's true, but these are my fears. These are my conspiracies. Just hear me out, honey, right? And then if we have a certain level of psychological self-soothing, that is what increases the quality of our relationship because we didn't send a text that was nasty. We didn't say, fuck you, and flip the tables, right? Which is something I would do, Capricorn Moon.
Yeah.
We didn't show our ass, even though we were pissed, okay? So there was someone said emotion regulation sounds fight fair. Yeah, really, exactly.
Yeah. And it's valuing and respecting your partner as a partner, not as someone that like they're not your parent. They're not to be dumped on. They're a human being. Like, you're supposed to enjoy each other and respect each other equally. So, like, you wouldn't dump on your friend. Like, why, you know?
Ooh, and you know what? Okay, you're killing it, Danielle. You are like air sign moderating. Like, wow, I'm never doing an Instagram live unless you're a fucking air sign son. Hear ye, hear ye. A mandate from the office of Colin Bedell. I love you more. So I'll tell you what you just reminded me of is about the Saturn retrograde in Aquarius. Okay? Because what Esther Perel's work teaches us all the time, so she's an extraordinary couples therapist, a huge voice in this conversation, is that we expect one special person to give us what an entire village of people really needs to provide.
Yeah.
So like you were saying, I'm not your parent. They're not your parent. They're not your business coach. They're not your live-in chef. They're not your maid, right? So it's like the Saturn retrograde in Aquarius connecting to Venus and Gemini and all of that reminds us that what we want to do is try to get a lot of emotional and psychological needs met from people outside of the relationship, right? So that we don't come to the romantic partners with an enormous amount of anticipation and can you do this for me and I want this expectation met.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Oh my God, because everyone's going to be like, oh, I'm running. No,
yes.
You can't be that for someone else.
I can't be everything for you. Exactly. So, and I think that's actually very Venus in Gemini too, is that they're kind of like romantically polyamorous. They love everybody, you know, get good, you know, good. And then if I choose to be in a monogamous committed relationship with somebody, right, then he is not responsible to do what everybody else who I have that connection with is supposed to do. Like, I'm good. So we're just here because I'm full, you're full. Let's have a good time.
Yes. As a partner.
Right.
Yeah. Amen.
Right.
All right.
Amen.
So
that's the goal.
let's talk about what are we in store for now that Venus is retrograde now? And like,
yes. Okay, yes. Because now that we did big air sign theory, right? Let's bring it back. Okay. Yeah. Well, I actually really love that you mentioned you will probably hear from people from your past. Right? So I think that's where we should start. And even if you don't have that conversation, I would put $20 million on the table if I had it, that you will be thinking or feeling a relational habit from the past in this experience until June 25th. I fucking guarantee it. Okay? So then it becomes, what do we do to have conversations with people from the past that are geared towards healing rather than further separation?
I love that. I love that. It's so important. And so often people don't like make amends and go back and heal.
Yes.
And it could be done through actions and words instead of just letting it linger there uncomfortable. Use it in healing.
Right. And I'm glad that Hella Intuitive, our Pisces boy, right, he said he blocks them. There are certainly times in relationships where that actually may be appropriate, and we want to acknowledge that too, right? So let's have a little bit of nuance here. If there is any level of abuse, harassment, or trauma of any kind, we have a zero tolerance policy for that, right?
Right.
But I think what we also want to remember is if it's just, you know, you showed your ass, so did they, you did the best they could, and you were mad, whatever. Oh, see, Jocelyn, my Pisces friend, said that she's doing this right now with a missed opportunity, right? And I think that's actually something that can be done really beautifully at this time, is if when your partner got here and maybe you just weren't ready in the past, now you can kind of say, all right, I'm willing to do this differently, because you'll probably appreciate this. One of my favorite quotes around relationships and soulmates was from Dr. Brian Weiss, who's done all the literature on past life regression therapies and all that, Many Lives, Many Masters, Miracles Happen. He's extraordinary. According to his connection to the highest level of energy, Jesus fucking Christ, Scorpio shit, okay? He believes that we do not get to choose when we meet our soulmate or soulmates, but we are responsible for our readiness level when they get here.
I agree with that.
Right?
I agree with that, because I was in a relationship and I was not in the right headspace at that time. I just really wasn't. But then when that ended, I did a lot of work on my own self. I did a lot of shadow work, a lot of healing, so that I was okay with my own self.
Right.
But, you know, it's up to them to do their own work. They can choose not to do their own work through their own will. We
Yeah.
all have free will. So
Right.
we all have a path that we should be doing in ascension and growth and development,
Yes.
but we can choose not to.
We could, and so can they.
Yes.
And then with Venus retrograde, if say together, you're like, you know, I see where I wasn't ready. I'd actually really just like to apologize. Then, like, I think there can be a lot of work done there specifically. But then also to David's point, because now David started a whole subcategory here as he needs to. Thank you, honey. Right?
I'm glad you can read because I'm blind. So
I know, I know. I'm trying. I'm doing my best. Oh my God. Okay. What I think is important is sometimes forgiveness is not always necessary. You know, and we have to acknowledge that, right? Like, you can still have a meaningful life without forgiveness, absolutely. But it can be done. It can be done. And as somebody commented, hopefully beforehand, yeah, you really want to know that you're responsible for your readiness level. And I think Venus retrograde just really wants us to say, where was I not ready? And what could I do now to kind of heal from the past?
Well, I will add onto your statement about sometimes forgiveness is not necessary, because I agree. Sometimes receiving forgiveness, like sometimes you'll never receive that forgiveness. Yes. Sometimes you can apologize or you can make a living amends to somebody and never receive forgiveness because that person is just not ready to forgive you. However, if you are course correcting and trying to make adjustments so that you don't cause further harm and that you can at least say, like, look, I feel shitty about the way that I treated you, or I really feel bad, or I acknowledge that I did these things to hurt you and I am sorry. Like, they may never say, like, it's okay, but at least you cleaned your side of the road and you can live standing in integrity.
Boom. Yes, yes, and yes. And I don't have anything to add other than, if you're connecting to what Danielle is saying around apologies and forgiveness, everyone, there is a phenomenal podcast by Dr. Brene Brown, who I really love. We love Brene. I swear, I burnt incense at her altar, Danielle. Like, it's a serious problem. She's the best.
My favorite book is The Gifts of Imperfection.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I know that blew the lid open for me. Right now, I'm still like marinating over Braving the Wilderness. So in her podcast, though, she had a phenomenal clinical psychologist by the name of Dr. Harriet Lerner, who spoke so phenomenally about apologies and forgiveness. Because, you know, oh my God, it's so good, Danielle, that it's 3 hours long. And she was like, I can't edit this. I'm going to have to do it in 2 parts, because it really teaches. I mean, let's think about it. When was the last time you ever had a conversation with a friend, a counselor, a mentor, a family member, or a loved one about how to effectively apologize?
It's something that in our society, it's not really taught, welcomed, encouraged. It's like that immediacy of, like, cut them off, block them, do this. But, like, what about ownership for our actions and saying, like, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you. I made a mistake. And because I wasn't raised with that being part of something that was comfortable.
Exactly. And I think nobody, I don't know anybody who was, you know, like we who know who was. So that's why these resources are absolutely so fucking helpful, because what it helps us acknowledge is that, first of all, there's already been research on it. So let's be very Venus retrograde in Gemini, high-minded valedictorian of the zodiac status. There are scientists, there are researchers. Here's the resources, read it, right? And then number 2 is that it gives you that framework to say, I'm sorry, and no but. You know, and just because we have been on the receiving end of bad apologies, right? Especially women, okay, or anybody born inside a majority culture, which is, yeah, I'm really sorry that you're so sensitive. I'm sorry that you feel that way. That's not a fucking apology. And then I want to scroll up here because in my indigenous American cultures, we do not say sorry. I ask people to say it won't happen again or make it up to me. They can't keep that promise, and vice versa. To that point of also historical apologies. The United States has never even gone on the record to apologize for the genocide of the indigenous American. They've never gone on the record to apologize for their involvement in the African slave trade. They've never gone on the record to apologize for anything that they've done. And reconciliation, you know, as a student of the 12 steps, has a moral force.
Well, I think often in our culture, apologies are seen as weakness, whereas
Mhm.
I see apologies or making a living amends as a sign of strength.
Yes. Yeah. And now let's make it political because you know what? Air sign shit, because here we go, right?
Yeah.
Could you imagine if the United States completely acknowledged both philosophically through legislation and economic restitution the considerations that they have for their involvement within the genocide of the American Indian and also their involvement in the African slave trade? Could you even imagine? And there are countries who have done that, who show the way in terms of what a full-blown political mea culpa looks like, and not just fancy fucking words, but economic restitution involved as well.
Right.
And if America, and it's interesting, we can make this about the American qualities as well. You know, of course, because we have a very corporate run government, which is don't explain and don't complain, then naturally as citizens, we think, oh, we don't have to either, right? So there's so much power in apology and I am sorry. And actually, the American president, Abraham Lincoln, he wanted to have a National Day of Atonement because he believed that a country should confess its sins, but Congress knocked it out of the park. And then he was assassinated 2 weeks later.
Well, I mean, in the Jewish religion, every year it's the Day of Atonement, and it's so
Yes,
beautiful.
yes, yes,
If I have
yes,
caused harm, I am sorry. If I, and
yes,
it's just, it's genuine and heartfelt, but talk is cheap unless it's followed up by actions and adjustments.
yes.
But
Oh,
yeah,
say it one more time. Say it one more time, Libra. Go ahead. What? What
talk
was
is
that?
cheap unless it's accompanied by actions and adjustments.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. And even just the acknowledgement, like the conversation, and also too, I think for the offended party to hear it.
Yeah.
Whew, I mean, what this country could be is if there was really like a conversational series where descendants of black slaves could speak on behalf of what slavery in their history, in their family has done to the country, and white America would just have to listen.
Yeah,
You know, there's so much.
our culture
Anyway,
is it's so litigious. It just would never. It's so
no.
utopian. But I think personal accountability. It starts with us, and we lead the way
Yeah.
by
Yes.
taking a personal inventory and
Hello.
looking at our character defects, looking at our trigger points, and saying like, all right, maybe I'm a little hot-headed, maybe I'm a little sharp-tongued. My Sag rising. I mean, honestly, I own it. I do. I try.
I love it. I'm laughing because it's true to your astrology. So go ahead. Yeah, right. No, and you know what? To that point, if we just start to maybe see Venus retrograde as moments where we can go within ourselves and see atonement, confession. Catholics confess as they go along, right? In A Course in Miracles, we have a whole prayer around atonement. And I love the line. It says that the Holy Spirit will undo all effects of our wrong-mindedness if we give it over to the atonement in peace.
It's beautiful.
It's beautiful. And maybe that's what we can also think about too, is like, because we're real good, from as being a student of the 12 steps, we are so good at monitoring the inventory of other people. We are so good at going, you know what they did because of this trauma and this pattern and blah, 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 blah. We're not so psychologically astute at knowing where we fucked up.
Yeah.
So maybe that could be where we go within ourselves from that Venus retrograde level and say, I see where I blew it. And I'm going to think about whether or not I should say something. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I keep it no secret that I'm in recovery, and I think going through the fourth step of like taking my own personal inventory of character defects was very eye-opening and humbling.
Yes.
It's like, okay, well, when you're human, you're whole. There's some good points, there's some weak points. There's always opportunity for development.
Danielle, say that one more fucking time about when you're human, you're what?
I mean, I'm perfectly imperfect. Okay, I'm flawed, and I'm a whole person.
Yes.
It's not all sunshines and rainbows coming out of my butthole. It's not. As much as the Libra likes to pretend like there's no unpleasantries. We don't talk about such things. That's rising does.
Now, I also, can I just say on a side note, I always have, if you guys obviously have seen Mean Girls, there's this moment when they walk them through the cafeteria, and it's like, so there's this category, there's this one, right? I always imagine somebody saying, like, that's where the air signs hang out, right? And it's you, me, and Aquarius, like, having a food fight and doing our makeup and a dance party and, like, just loving life and right? I know, and you would never want anything to be perfect, like, imperfect or whatever, but it's just, I love being an air sign. It's so much fucking fun. Anyway, and actually, you're getting a lot of congratulations. I know you can't see, so I want to tell you. On your path to recovery, and we couldn't be proud of you for that reason. And I kind of wanted to ask you, when you were mentioning it, did you notice, because I've noticed this too, I'm wondering, I don't want to project, but I'm curious, did you notice that after you apologized, it's like the universe let some sort of alchemy out?
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, you were protected or something went well for you. Like, what were the spiritual effects of the apology and forgiveness conversation?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm still in the thick of it. That's steps 8 and 9. So it's like a list of all of the people that you have caused harm to and making that living amends. So there are some relationships that if it's going to cause harm to them, you don't approach them because it's only going to cause further harm. So, I mean, there's definitely past relationships that have been scorched earth, and I'm not proud of it, but you know, the living amends that I've made is that that's not me. I don't do that anymore. I don't behave that way. I think certain character flaws and defects like cause me to behave very poorly, but I can only move forward from now and move forward based on like what I know and how I want to live. But the healing relationships that I have said, listen, I acknowledge that I've done things to hurt you, and I feel really badly. I wish I could be more available to you. I can see now that, you know, I might have jumped to certain conclusions and not given you the opportunity to explain. And it's just owning my side. It's not saying, well, you did this, because that negates it all. Just period, end of story. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Tell me what I can do better. Tell me what more you need.
No, this is great, because actually there's a framework around conversations that couples ought to have after an infidelity has been exposed. And it's this, and I think it's actually applicable to anything. And it's what this meant for you, what it did to me. If that is not the dialogue that we all need to be having around every single apology and forgiveness, right? Because it's like, what did it mean for you to show your ass? What did it mean for you to insert behavior here, right? Because I'm all ears. Yeah. And then let me explain to you what it did for me, right? So I just think that if we can have that twofold Gemini approach, right? Once again, we have a framework, we have a container, because these conversations are really hard. And I think that's why the 4 scariest words we can ever hear in a sentence are, we need to talk. It's the scariest, most dangerous thing we can do, and yet it is absolutely the most essential. And I think Venus retrograde in Gemini is reminding each and every one of us, okay, I got to step it up. I got to improve the quality of my verbal communication skills. I got to improve the accuracy of my listening. I need to make sure that I'm validating and summarizing these points, right? So that people can hear me for accuracy. People are mentioning the Imago Institute. Phenomenal resource, everybody. Excellent. And what it teaches us there is, say that you were my partner and you were exploring a grievance with me. I would have to summarize your point of view to your satisfaction before we could move on to the next point.
That's heavy work.
I know.
It's deep conversations that a lot of people are not comfortable having.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
I'm so glad you said that word. Yep, continue. Yep.
Yeah, but when it happens, it's beautiful for the healing process, and it takes your relationship to a whole new level. Whether you decide to remain as a couple or not, it's still healing. Like, we did a lot of that while I was going through my divorce through therapy, and we had to have some really transparent discussions, exposing our feelings and things that have happened. But even though we decided not to remain married, it helped facilitate transparency and understanding from both parties.
With Without a doubt. And I love that you use the word uncomfortable, right? Because I think what we want to remember too is that number one, and this is very Jupiter and Capricorn, none of us are entitled to comfort, right?
Yes.
And then also, none of us are responsible for the comfort level of others.
Yeah. It's so
Like
true.
all we can do, like you were saying, is have conversations that are uncomfortable but are transparent. And I see somebody mentioned the Nonviolent Communication System by Marshall Rosenberg. Phenomenal. Another amazing resource. And what that teaches us, as you know from your counseling sessions with your former spouse, was that words can be windows or walls. I love that. Right? And so,
Yeah.
interestingly enough, what a lot of therapists don't get to talk about, but they see all the time, is after an infidelity or after a betrayal, the couple has such an important, authentic conversation that it reignites the passion, it reignites the attraction, and now they're closer than they ever were because they had the conversation they should have had when they were engaged, and now they're like, wow, I had no idea you had these hopes, these fears. Now I know who you are because we had this tough conversation, and no, I wish we didn't have to go about it this way, but here we are, right? And now how do we resurrect from this opportunity?
I'm sorry, I get channeled messages through like songs coming into my
Oh, okay. Tell me what it is.
Jimmy Buffett just started playing in my head. If you like pina coladas.
Why is that? Just because?
Because it's all about how he says, come with me and escape. Meet me at midnight and come with me to escape if you like pina coladas. And then his wife shows up.
I didn't even know that.
You do? You like pina coladas? Come with me and escape. Like, and it's like, oh, we reconnected. We lost each other.
Oh my God. Okay, so to that point, now I'm gonna listen to that song. My mom, who's been here, she's probably gonna play it. Okay, so love it. Is that a very helpful tip is to always remember is that you want to actually create a dialogue with all of the people that you love, right? Family, friends, colleagues, partners, all of that. You want to create dialogues where 50% of what you say is an open-ended question. Because if you like pina coladas and getting caught in the rain, that whole thing could be alleviated if he asked his wife, do you like it? Do you like them? What do you want? You know, like, let me get to know you. You know what I'm saying? And so, and this is actually...
Let's go back to that percentage again. 13%. More of this, less of this.
Right. And so if you ask questions 50% of the time, what are you doing here? Listening. And then you're summarizing, right? So say you're my partner and I'm like, hey, so what does eroticism and passion and excitement mean to you? Right? Then you have this open-ended time to just yap away. And then I have to go, okay, hold on, let me stop you there because I'm flooded with information. So what would be really exciting for you, Danielle, is if I just sent you a text message and said, meet me on the corner of 2nd Avenue and 13th Street wearing this dress. I'm not going to tell you what we're doing for the next 3 hours, but I just want you to be there. And then you're like, yeah, or
That's
whatever.
Sagittarius.
Right? I tried to. I know how to make that voice happy.
I'll be right there.
Yeah, I know. Oh my God. Yes. I already have the black dress on. I know, right? No. I've only ever dated Sag boys. They drive me crazy. So anyhow, but no, so all of this to say, that's how we can get to know what our partner's desires are.
Yeah.
And then you just want to ask yourself, when was the last time I asked? Because I want people to ask me, right? But when was the last time I spoke to somebody and said, you know, what would really make you so happy tomorrow morning for breakfast? You know, whatever. It's just having those conversations, right? So,
and that's such a great way to connect in any relationship. It doesn't even have to be romantic. It could be with your children. It can be with your business partner. It could be with your friends. It could, you know, ask those questions. And then in the spirit of partnership of like, you really enjoy this person and you want to develop and have a good solid, like have fun with it. They love waffles with whipped cream and maple syrup from New Hampshire and, you know, chocolate chips. Well, guess what? Serve them that. Who knows?
Yes.
You know, like,
you're getting it all. You're getting it all. Go ahead.
Have fun with it.
I know. And go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, I just think, I think it could be, if you think about it as like an opportunity instead of a chore. Because people get caught up with the minutia of like the actions of everyday tasks. But like, that's where I think this kind of a retrograde can cause you to like evaluate, like, what do I love about this person? What made me feel special about it? What do I like?
Yes. Oh my God, there's so much. Okay. And we've gotten several requests, Danielle, to make sure that we save this conversation.
We will. We're going to upload it to YouTube. Do you have a hard cutoff time at 1? Because what we've done is we've jumped back on for some.
Oh, I only do because both my brother-in-law and my brother are both born on May 18th, so we're having a birthday party today.
Okay. So
Fucking
we have
Taurus.
10 minutes left, but we will be seeing.
I know, I'm so sad.
But wait. I talk to you for hours, and I think everybody that's participating, we have so many people watching. I love it.
Well, no, because it's air signs. It's like, yeah, so listen, tell me about this date. I was just thinking, I know, Gemini Libras, this is all we fucking do, is yap the night away. I love it.
I did my nails for you. I got.
Oh my God.
I know.
I'm
It's
so
like
jealous.
very labradorite, right? Yeah.
Damn it. You look great. No, I haven't got my nails done in 2 months. The Libras would be devastated. Keep the kiss. I wanted to say, too, in the 10 minutes that we have, that Esther Perel says beautifully, and I love this, that when you choose a partner, you choose a story. So write well and edit often. I know. I'm annoyed. She's so good. I'm like, ugh, I love you so much. Okay. So what I think she's asking us to do too with Venus retrograde in Gemini, if she was an astrologer, is she would be really asking us to think about what story. Thank you, Carly. My eyebrows. I know my sister did them. Okay, wait. So it would be, what stories are we choosing? Because that's really what it is. And then also, the last time I asked somebody to be my boyfriend, I told him the story of what he would be getting and living in if he said yes. Right? And I think very Venus and Gemini is that, like, if we choose this story together, right, this is what you would be receiving. This is what you would be experiencing. And I think what we want to ask ourselves is, like, am I in a story that I need to edit or that I don't want to be in? Or do we need to just like revisit the plot line and say, like, what are we building together? You know, what are the aspirations and the outcomes that we as a unit want to receive? And once again, I want to bring up your function, Danielle, is that this is true for not just romantic love, but family, but friends, all of it, right? It's like, when you really think about the story of friendships or the story of family, like, you're creating a very beautiful narrative, or maybe not so much, maybe because you don't even realize the pen's in your hand. You know, so write well and edit often. That's what she says.
Wow, you're inspiring me.
Oh, stop it. You're inspiring me because I've loved the Libra-Gemini connection. And I think I didn't even realize, I had a feeling we were going to go all of life is relationship and communications. Exactly. Okay. Yeah. Could we say the quote again, please? Yes. So it is Esther Perel. And if any of you bitches know when she was born, I'm going to need you to Google it or something, because I can't find her birthday anywhere. It drives me crazy. Okay. But she says that when you choose a partner, you choose a story. So write well and edit often.
Amen.
Amen. Right. So choose the Venus and Gemini story really carefully. And because we still do have about 7 minutes. And thank you guys for being so thoughtful and engaged. I mean, really, Danielle, like, what's better than people spending time with us across this platform, right?
I absolutely love it. I absolutely love you.
I love it.
I mean,
I love you.
We'll have you back. And
I would want to, yes.
Yeah,
so that,
and I don't even want this conversation to end, so I'm going to have you make some parting words. But before we do, let's just plug you. Colin's handle is Queer Cosmos.
That's
and
me.
Tell all the different ways that they can find you, because they should be following you.
Thank you.
And
they should be following. They should be following you, because Amityville, you guys, has been an enormous positive influence on my life. The Amityville Apothecary. My career just started when they invited me to do a lot of things, and it helped me beyond. Like, I could talk about it for an hour, but I can't. But I just want you to know that, like, it's really beautiful to witness a spiritual business walk the talk and have so much integrity and so much generosity and so much support. The experiences I had at that store live in my bones. I mean, they're career defining. Really. I told you that. That's why I wrote you that. Thank you, Colin. Like, you had no idea. Okay. But
we love you so much.
Oh, I love you. And also, the Amityville Apothecary, guys, is the only reason why my fucking 30-year-old ass has a driver's license. But that's a whole nother story. So anyway. It's too much. So you can find me at queercosmos.com, QUEERCOSMOS. I do weekly horoscopes. I do the horoscopes on Cosmo. I do natal chart readings. La 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 la.
You've written numerous books.
Yes, I have. So a little bit of astrology, queer cosmos, and Gemini. I wrote a book all about Gemini. Okay. Yeah. So that's me. And thank you. And I appreciate you. And I guess what we'll do, that's my mom. I do love you. Thank you, Mommy. Thank you for watching.
Thank you,
she's
Mom.
downstairs.
He's a gift.
Right. She's downstairs probably. Well, she better be. And so do you guys have any questions in the limited time that we have, right? Maybe we could do some of that real quick, Danielle, if that's okay with you. Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll yap, and I'll look to see if you have any questions about Venus retrograde in Gemini. Please put it here, and I will do my best to answer them in the limited amount of time that we have. Great. Okay. I don't see too many questions yet.
Yeah, I don't see questions. I see a lot of gratitude towards you.
Oh, thank you. Well, then you know what I could do in true Gemini fashion? I can summarize the references that we spoke about. So Dr. Harriet Lerner in the podcast, Gemini rising, how does it affect me? It affects you deeply. So just really think about the way that you're using language and communication to connect to people rather than keep them out. And always improve the quality of your listening skills and your negotiation practices as well. How do you broker the needs of you in perfect harmony with the needs of the relational and the relational community as well? Okay, so that's Gemini rising. We spoke about Dr. Harriet Lerner and her podcast on Brene Brown's podcast called Unlocking Us. How can we slow down and evaluate the story harnessing the energy of the retrograde? That's a great question. So what you're going to want to do is really just sit back and observe what is happening within the quality of the relationship. Are you trustworthy? Are they trusting you? Are boundaries being honored? Are outcomes being met? Right? Just have a State of the Union address, right, with maybe your relational partner and say, how are we doing? What's going on here? You know, what are we making? What if you don't have a Venus in Gemini? How does a Venus retrograde in Gemini affect someone who doesn't have a Gemini Venus? Hello, D. Okay, so that's my friend Danielle too. D, I think you're kind of in the clear, sweetie, because you are such a successful communicator, right? But maybe because you have an air sign husband, I'm blowing her shit up. She's going to be like, excuse me, Scorpio. You just want to maybe continue having him disclose and see how he's being met there, right? And just see how the stories are being expressed. And really ask him, do I express the level of curiosity daily that makes you feel like you matter to me? Because air signs just want to know that they matter, honestly. So I hope that's helpful for you. How do we harness these energies to cultivate resilience? Hello, that's a great fucking question. Resilience is cultural, theological. It's very much an identity nuance-based perspective, right? So I would like you to really think about, I love your book, thank you. How resilience, how you were raised with it, how you can cultivate it. And I also would like you to Google shame resilience, because that's the real piece here. You're going to want to think about how resilience is both embedded within your culture, within your inner relationships, and in with your psychology as well, because it's really individualized in that capacity. Someone asked about Leo. Leos, I want you to take your friendships in a more romantic space, right? Because with Leo energy, sometimes there could be a little bit too much categorical. This is a lover. This is a best friend. This is a God only knows what. But actually make your friendships more romantic and make your romances more friendly. Just make them the best of both. Go ahead, Dee. Sorry, Danielle.
No, that's okay. The timer is coming up that we have 1 minute and 45 seconds.
Ah! Okay. So
well,
this was so much fun.
I know. In closing Venus retrograde 2020,
yes,
what are some key takeaways to impart on our users? Like retrogrades historically a time to go within and to not take overt action, but to reflect and
internalize.
Yeah. So any parting words for us, honey?
Internalize. Yes. Thank you. What I would like everybody to know, if they're harnessing this energy well, is that the people that they love know that they matter to them. People at the end of the day just want to know that they matter, that they're seen and that they're known, right? And so what I would like each and every one of you to measure is, how am I doing letting other people know just how and why they matter to me because of who they are and what they do. Not just what they do, because that's real popular, right? Like, thank you so much for what you do for me, but it's really who you are that I see that matters to me. So that's what I would say.
That is such a beautiful way to part, and you matter to me.
Oh, my Libra, thank you. You matter to me. I told my whole family, I'm like, you guys, they're the only reason why I have my license. You understand? And they're the only reason why, like, I actually do public events, because I absolutely hate them because I'm so scared. But because of Amityville, they made it happen for me. So thank you.
Your first book signing.
Yes.
Honored. Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. Guys, we do sell Colin's book at our shop, and when all of this lifts, we'll have Colin back to the shop for an event. And thank you so much for spending this time with us. I appreciate it.